Morning everyone. It's meant to be jack fishing this morning, but the rain has had other ideas. So I've decided to make a little video of how I like to target Saratoga. I get a few questions on YouTube and messages and that, so I thought I'd decide to knock up a little vid on the fish with no rules. And a little about me. I've been targeting a lot of fish, but toga for about the last 20 odd years. And early in the piece, me and one of my mates got a 83 and an 81 out of Kenya one weekend when we were chasing bass and toga. We thought, shit, there's heaps of these 80 plus toga around, to get that on pretty much our first weekend targeting them, and never caught another 80 plus since until like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, out of Kenya again. Caught heaps in the 70s, heaps. But cracking those 80s, it's a memorable moment. So maybe go on to where to catch them. Now I'm based in Gladstone, so we've got access to Dawson River out of Marra, a couple of hours away. There's some in Awonga, but pretty rare to catch them in there. Kenya is my favourite spot for big toga. There is a lot of huge toga. I reckon, some of the biggest in Australia are in Kenya, and it's a very fishable dam, especially when it's low like it is now. There's out around Marra, any of the Dawson area, Dawson, Fitzroy, Isaacs, about 4 hours away, Connors River, Funnel Creek, that whole system I'll target them in. Now, toga are a fish with no real set rules. They're not like jacks where when the tide goes out, they're out of the mangrove roots, just target the snags. Once on the outgoing tide, they're pretty easy to work out. Toga can be anywhere. Just when you think they're up in the lilies, they're out in the middle of the dam. When you think they're at one end of the river, they're out in the middle. They're up against the side. They are literally anywhere. So you've just got to be targeting, throwing in front of you all the time, because you will absolutely spook about 10 toga to every one you get a hit. Literally anywhere. And time of year, it doesn't really matter. I've catch them all year round. Literally winter, summer, doesn't seem to affect them too much. Sometimes when the water's really hot, they'll be sitting a bit deeper in the cooler water. But I've caught them, winter, summer, doesn't really seem to matter so much. They're very opportunistic. So, literally anywhere. So just keep targeting, keep casting in front of you. Otherwise you're just going to miss that opportunity. Should also say, like when I'm targeting, just so I'm in the Dawson, and it's a pretty dirty river, like they're still there when it's really muddy, but you don't want to be doing it when it's like a chocolate thick shake. But I like it when it's a dirty clean, about 20 centimeters of visibility, like 100 mil. It's like they just miss hit. You'll cast your lure out, hit beside them, they'll swipe at it, miss it. But when you got about that 20 or 30 centimeters of visibility, it's actually probably the best. Like they're not quite as spooked, and if they can actually see that lure, because it's all visual, when they're there, then it's good fun. You can really target them without them seeing you. But when the dirtier the water, they're very easily spooked, because you don't see them, they don't see you till you're right on them. And then when the water's too clean, they're easily spooked as well. So that in-between dirtiness is really, really good. I love it when it's like that. Now, targeting them in dams, like I said, they can be absolutely anywhere, but my favourite way is surface fishing for them. Heaps of fun, but I do like it glassed out. When it's glassed out, normally a good pair of polarized sunglasses, you'll see them there. If not, you still got to randomly throw. Sometimes I'll be down, 2 feet, 3 feet, and they'll still rise for that lure. But I try and avoid windy sections. Like the windier they are, it is, the deeper they'll be. The calmer it is, they'll be on the surface, and that's where it's most fun, more visual, and that's why we're chasing them. It's good fun. And to go into my favourite lures for chasing them, I'll start off with my least preferred way. And like I said, I've tried every hook combination the last 20 years, and even the one hook combo and setup I'm set on, still if you land 1 in 4, it's a good day. Like generally you're around 50%, but anything better than 1 in 4. And that's because they have a very, very hard bony mouth and not many spots to hook them properly. So my theory is I use very, very, very small hooks, treble hooks. So around that size 10, size 8 to size 10 trebles on my hard bodies. And pretty much the only soft plastic I ever really use on them, if it's particularly weedy, and that is the little finesse frog with about a number 2 weedless hook. But with using that combo, you are relying to get them in the side of the mouth. That's about the only spot this can actually pin it well. If that comes in, rolls, get them in the side of the mouth, you're laughing, but so many times if that's hooked and just wedges in the top of the mouth, it's just in the bone. And even around the jaw, it's a pretty big jawline, so you're sort of really relying on it to get it in the side of the mouth. I don't use that very often, but sometimes it comes in handy having them on board, weedy situations, that sort of thing, when you're just casting into weed pockets. That is a sensational go-to lure, and I like it because it's small too. That's another thing I'll go into, small lures. I love small lures for toga. Now, my favourite even brand of hooks, so trebles for the lures. So if I'm using a little bit bigger lure, like a D-style or a minnow, that is what I'm using. Size 8 BKK spears. So they're thin, relatively strong and sharp. Because they're thin and they're fairly heavy fish, I like to fish them with a bit of like a lighter drag, just so you're not straightening them hooks. Because they swim a bit like an eel, they don't fight like barra, they don't fight as hard as jack and barra, so you can just finesse them straight in. They swim like an eel through the water, a bit snake-like. They sort of slither through the water, so you can get away with using these smaller wide hooks, but these are needle sharp. I love them a lot. And almost even better, the size 10s, smaller again, and this is what I'm running on my little cicada lures and things like that. Now, I almost prefer the size 10s over the size 8s. Like, they are good. So I like using a small lure that fits in their mouth, just to give you more of a chance for those little points, little hooks, to get hold of any little bit of thin meat in their mouth. And even with the bigger toga, I find it better to use these small hooks, because it bites into that meat, even just on the lip or in the tongue and that. So yeah, that's my go-to brand and my go-to hook, the BKK spears, either 8s or 10s, but depending the lure that I'm using, I tend not to use anything bigger than a size 8 treble on my minnows. Well hooked too. What do I do with that? And look, those little hooks. That's why I love little hooks with Saratoga. Now we'll go into my favourite lures, as mentioned before. Got the finesse frog, that's me soft plastic, about the only one I use. You can use grubs, I've caught them on grubs and that, rigged up with that weedless hook. No matter what, that's your best chance of hooking them because it'll roll around. Hopefully pin them in the side of the jaw. Your standard jig heads and that, really hard to hook them with. Now, so as far as, we'll talk minnows first. Now, these are all about 5 centimetres. I actually bought these from Bali, a little shop there in Legion. If you Google that, little fishing shop there, I paid like $3 for these, and they sort of resemble a little beetle or a frog. Savage little wobble on them, and they are a ripper. They only dive down about 2 feet, 3 feet. They're sinking. I'd love a floating version of them, but gee whiz, the toga do go nuts for them. So if it's a bit windier, I'll start using the minnows. There's another one. Another little like a wake bait cicada. I actually bought that second-hand shop in Japan. It's a good little lure. Jollops made these rhino beetles. These things are awesome. Already caught a few toga on them, but these are an awesome wake bait. Look at the detail in them. They are fantastic. Nice strong little hooks on them. I still haven't changed them hooks. They've gone really good. Whatever hooks Jollop used, Joey Jollop on there, well, they're sticking to my fingers. But they are such an impressively made little lure. They work great. Big fan of them. Another couple minnows, that's another one, little prawn copy, RMC style. Anything like that. And a little Rapala. These things go really good. A little bit longer than what I like using, but it's still good. Size 8 spears on them. That's just a nice little slow wobbly lure that's done me well on the toga. Now, surface lures. So one of my favourite, D-style reserves. That thing has been destroyed. I've caught dozens of toga on that very lure right there. Just paired up with 2 size 8 BKK spears, but these are fun to use. Great, it's my favourite lure for bass as well. That's my favourite surface lure by far. Just in, you can work it slow, you can wait for them, and they little wobble, and they love that thing. A few different colours, go-to colours on them. But they are one of my favourite ever surface lures, bass and toga. A few different. If the water's a bit dirtier, I'll use a solid coloured one like that one in the muddier water. Plane going overhead. And right, then we're on to probably the cicadas that kicked it all off, the Tiemco soft shell cicadas. These things are a foam body. That thing's been destroyed. Now the action on them is phenomenal, but they are a light lure, being a foam bodied lure. But great little hooks, just size 10 little hooks, but they are phenomenal. And I'll just pause for a moment and show you what toga can do to them. So I was out at Kenya throwing the Tiemco soft shells, and that's what a 78 centimeter toga did to it. So like that was a bloody big toga, but that's what can happen. So I don't really use them that often anymore. If there's a bunch of smaller toga around, like out on the Dawson, out around, yeah, Mara, any of those places out there, happily use them. I don't tend to get as many really big toga out there, so I'll throw them. But for the big ones in a Kenya and places like that, I'll use other brands. And so these are the brands I really like using. These two here. So these are the Savage Gear cicadas. Now I'm not even sure if they're making these now. I've been finding them in bargain bins and then don't see too many of them that size. There is a bigger version, but that size there, it's probably 4 centimeters long. These are exceptional. They're hard, they cast well, they're a heavier lure, so great to cast. Good hooks that come with it as well. I normally don't even bother changing them if need be until they get straightened. But they are a ripper lure. The only thing I've had on a few, and I'm guessing because it's such a hard lure, is the toga can crush them and break the little fins off, the wings off. I've had that happen on a few lures, but like for the cost of them, they are a sensational lure. And now we've probably got my current go-to lure is the Chase Baits Ripple Cicadas. These are phenomenal. So a little bit lighter than the other ones, but they still cast really well. Like you squeeze them. Boom, boom, boom. So even after you catch a fish, I've never broken any wings on these yet either. So these have been really good. Good hooks with them as well. Normally don't bother changing them till something happens. But after you catch a fish, you got to make sure you give it a squeeze and get the water out of it. Otherwise she'll sink and not swim real well. But these are phenomenal. They're probably, if I'm going to use one lure for the day, Chase Bait Ripple Cicada, very good lure. Yeah. Range of colours. I like going the darker colours, just easier to see on the surface or in dirty water if it's up against the sunlight and that. But yeah, any of them, phenomenal lure, really, really good. Now landing, you've hooked up to one, you've got to keep pressure on these fish. Like 9 times out of 10, that hook is not even in deep anywhere. So it's literally just the pressure keeping them on it. You'll net these things and the lure just falls out most of the time. So you must keep pressure on. As soon as you hook up, keep pressure on and just take it easy, but keep pressure on. Do not let that line go slack. Otherwise you could be in a world of hurt. And use a net if you can. They're a very, very finicky fish. If you really, I can't implore enough, don't drop these things. If you drop them from a height, holding them up and drop them onto a deck or the ground or whatever, it's almost a death sentence for them. They're so temperamental. They get bleeds and that in them, like they have all sorts of issues. So yeah, don't drop them. Now also, they're mouth brooders, so try not to use your metal boga grips. Keep them for the other fish and that, because they'll tear a hole them in their throat there. They got a leathery sort of throat, but it can tear really easily. So we tend to use the plastic grips. They've got a thicker edge. Sometimes they will even tear as well, so you just got to be particularly careful. But if you're using grips, they're the best ones on the market to use. So net net them up, keep them in the net, don't hold them up high, put the grips on, get the hooks out, and then slide them onto your brag mat. And when you're measuring them too, close the mouth and push them up to the brag mat. Because if you open the mouth, it adds another 5 centimeters to them. So to measure them properly, close the mouth, slide them up, hard on, bang, there's your measurement. Also, what I like to use, once again, million things. Everyone's got their own idea, their own theories, rods, reels, spinning gear, all that. I like to use so that's my favorite outfit, is the Corrado DC. This is, I've spooled up with 20-pound braid and 20-pound leader. And I use that pretty much even for bass and that, but I'm also running the River Raider. And this is the older version. I love this model rod, was better than the newer one. So if you can find that one, that's a ripper. It's just a little bit stiffer than the Bass Raider. I just find I've dropped more toga with the Bass Raider. Just not quite with the softer tip. Just trying to stay with that hook loaded in their mouth. So I do like that rod a little bit stiffer. And I know other people are quite happy with the softer ones, but that's my own preference. That's how I like to do it. River Raider's a bit longer, so it's good for casting them light lures. And the Corrado DC for throwing, because most of these lures are really light, small, but the Corrado DCs, you can really rip into those light lures and get them as far as possible. I love me bait casters. I love the directness of them, as opposed to the spinning gear. That's my favorite way. Love this gear. Now, in saying all that, you can almost throw all that advice out the window, because there is so many ways to catch these things. I've seen them on much bigger hooks, trebles, huge lures, swim baits, everything. They are so opportunistic, they will eat anything. And this video is just how I prefer to target them. So there's a million ways to target them, but this is how I personally like to do it. I've had the best success rate. Small lures, small hooks, I find the best hookup rate. Others will say big lures. I do whatever works for you, because there is more than one way to skin a cat with these toga. There is just no set rules. So good luck out there. Have fun with the hunt.